All right, Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz is done, and I'm just going to say Diaz didn't deliver. The triple D. Nate Diaz didn't deliver. Let everyone down. I'm just going to start off by saying this. I know I said Diaz was going to kick Jake's ass. Okay, I said that. I did a couple of videos on it. I made predictions. But I knew it wasn't going to happen. And that's not me trying to cover my own back because I got a prediction wrong. It's me being honest. Because if you look at any of the old stuff that I did, I said every time, Jake Paul's going to win this fight. Because Jake Paul is younger. He's in his prime. He's the bigger guy. And he boxes. Nate Diaz is almost 40. He's fought most of his life at 155. He's not a boxer, although he can throw hands. But he didn't really do that Saturday night, okay? It was kind of an underwhelming fight. I will say this, credit to Jake Paul, he was improved. Last time out against Tommy Fury, he learned some valuable lessons. He went out there, number one against Tommy Fury, he gassed. He was looking for the knockout right from the opening bell. Didn't get the knockout, kind of gassed as the fight went along, and he rightly lost a decision. So coming into this one, I did think there was a way to win for Nate Diaz. I did think that if Paul tried to knock him out in the early rounds, then maybe he'll get tired and Diaz could take over the longer the fight went. But Jake Paul's cardio was improved. He had a solid game plan. He was circling a lot because he knew Diaz was going to walk forward. And he didn't really get tired. Of course, at the end of 10 rounds, both men were tired, but he had the stamina and he had the wherewithal with the stances to keep the hands up, the footwork to circle and all the rest of it to get the victory, to get what he needed. And he even knocked Nate Diaz down. Nate Diaz had a good round towards the end of the fight, put on a lot of pressure, landed a couple of uppercuts, some nice straight shots. But it wasn't a tremendous show of boxing. It was a tremendous event, though. The crowd were right behind it. We heard a lot of noise. There was a tremendous amount of support for Nate Diaz in the building. He is a cult-like figure in mixed martial arts and has a massive, massive following. But I wasn't, honestly, particularly confident of Nate getting the win, but I was trying to will it into existence because, of course, he's from the MMA community and we want someone to put Jake Paul in his place. And I don't say that because I don't like Jake Paul. I don't know him. I've never met the guy. I've just seen the way he interacts, the way that he talks about himself, and the way he cherry picks opponents. People don't like that. The thing about fighting that inspires people is when they see someone go up against someone that they think they can't beat, or maybe they don't know that they can win, but they're willing to have a go. They're willing to train and push themselves to the limit and let the facts speak for themselves. Let the skill do the talking. But he's picking people that are almost 40 that aren't boxers. I'm repeating myself. Now, listen, I will say credit to Jake Paul because he went out there and he won. Okay, he got the job done. They both made a ton of money. Jake Paul got $2 million guaranteed plus pay-per-view. Diaz got $500,000 plus pay-per-view. There was a lot of people in the arena. No doubt a lot of pay-per-view sold. And no doubt a lot of money going to both people. Now, speaking to both people, talking about a lot of money, they're talking now about doing a rematch in mixed martial arts. Jake Paul was talking about it at the pre-fight press conference. He was talking about it in the ring and at the post-fight press conference, talking about mixed martial arts, okay, and talking about $10 million for Nate Diaz. So, of course, Nate's going to accept that. He wasn't quick to accept it before the fight, but he is now. Because now he wants to get revenge. He wants to get in a level playing field. He wants to be able to use the whole arsenal of his skills and $10 million on the line. Why wouldn't you take that, okay? But I don't know necessarily, and you're going to hate me for saying this, but I don't know necessarily if Jake doesn't win an MMA fight, right? Diaz has got tremendous grappling, but he's not the biggest wrestler and he's not the biggest kicker. He would normally set it up with the hands, like with Conor McGregor, hit him with the right hand. Conor sprawled and he turned that into a submission. I don't think Jake Paul will be shooting takedowns on him. I think he would keep the fight on the feet and it might even just turn into a boxing match. You never know. But of course, you know, we'll see how all of that plays out. Now, there is potential for a lot of other fights. There's potential for Nate Diaz. He talked about maybe going back to the UFC. Of course, he wants to fight Jake Paul. He wants to get revenge. And he wants to make up for his performance because he was messing around a little bit. And we know that he showboats and all the rest of it. He points and he runs away and he leans on ropes. And, you know, he has that gangster attitude. He said that I got the single leg in the first, I got the guillotine in the 10th, so therefore I won the fight. He didn't win the fight. He didn't. And Jake Paul even said, listen, he had that thing locked in. I thought, oh, shit, this is crazy. He's actually choking me out, but the referee stepped in. It wasn't an MMA fight. Even if the guillotine worked, even if he tapped, that wouldn't have won him the fight. Just because he puts his arms around Jake Paul, I get it. There's a moral victory there, and he's making a point, and people laughed, and it was funny. And it just proves that in a real fight situation, then Jake Paul would have his hands full, certainly fuller, and Nate Diaz would have a bigger chance of winning. But even still, that was a little bit too late. You know, throwing on a guillotine at the end of the fight. wasn't enough. Too little, too late. But of course, Conor McGregor has been involved.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Because Conor McGregor and that third fight with Nate Diaz is always talked about. But here is what Conor McGregor had to say on Twitter. He began by tweeting around the third round that Nate's act is stale and that he needs to fight more. People's champ, I'm going to say this now. Them antics, when it is time to move, ain't hitting for me no more. I've seen Nate point. I've seen him turn, walk away, etc., etc. It's stale now. Effing do something else, because you are doing nothing. You could have been the UFC welterweight champ. You wasted it. You're doing F all. Right, so he's talking about the second fight with Nate Diaz. Right, when Conor did go for a little run and he was pointing and all the rest of it and having fun and, kind of mocking Conor a little bit. Conor says he could have become the welterweight champion. Well, he did fight the welterweight champion, Leon Edwards, and he lost that fight. Okay, now he did hit him with that big right in the fifth round, and that's kind of why I thought that he might do better as the fight progressed, and he did do better as the fight progressed. But Conor's throwing a little bit of shade at Nate Diaz, probably because he wants him to come back to the UFC, because that would be a good fight for both men. It would be a massive blockbuster. It would do tremendous pay-per-view sales, and they've kind of got unfinished business anyway. They are 1-1. And Nate Diaz, fair play, could say that this guy's mastered the game because he's won the Jake Paul sweepstakes and he's won the Conor McGregor lottery. Not once, but twice, now maybe 3 times. And now he's already been paid a ton to box Jake Paul, who's not a boxer, who's a Disney kid, who's an amateur boxer. And now he's being offered $10 million for an MMA fight against a guy that's never fought MMA. If that isn't navigating the waters correctly and having tremendous offers at your fingertips, then I don't know what is. So I will say congratulations to Nate Diaz for that. But how's it all going to play out? Well, I think that PFL signed Nate Diaz and Jake Paul. They do a cross promotion because Nate Diaz is insisting on that. And then they'll fight in mixed martial arts. And I just hope and I pray to God that Nate Diaz gets that done. And then maybe after that, he goes back to the UFC. But I don't know if he would. If he loses to Jake Paul in boxing, which he has done, stock drops. Simple as that. It always does after a loss, whether or not you're a boxer. The only time it can go up in a loss is when Conor McGregor did the same thing against Floyd Mayweather. But Jake Paul is not Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather was one of the best boxers of his generation. He was 49-0, and yes, Conor got finished, but he gave a good account of himself, landing some good shots, a beautiful uppercut. I think it was round 2, and kind of held his own for a bit until he started to fade, and then Floyd took over and got the stoppage. In that loss, Conor's stock went up. I don't know if Diaz's stock goes up, and certainly if he was to fight in mixed martial arts against Jake Paul and he was to lose, would anyone want to see him back in the UFC? I guess we would, because he's entertaining. He's got a great style. And there's the fight with Conor McGregor. But I'm telling you, for negotiating purposes, it wouldn't be good. But we got to say, listen, he stepped in there, Jake Paul, with Nate Diaz, who is a dangerous man, and he won. Fair and square. For that, I will say congratulations and fair play. He's doing the right thing as well. He's navigating the waters, just like I said, Nate Diaz did well. What do I mean by that? Well, he talks about Canelo Alvarez. He talks about being a boxing world champion. But now, once again, there's no mention of a boxing world champion. We're talking about him now fighting MMA against Nate Diaz. Nothing to lose there. Then after that, he's probably going to fight Tommy Fury again. He might fight KSI if KSI beats Tommy Fury. So we could go another 2 years if he fights KSI, if he fights Tommy Fury and he fights Nate Diaz in MMA. It could be another 2 years passes and he still hasn't fought an actual boxer. And yes, Tommy Fury's a boxer, I know that, but he's not one of the top guys. Still, there it is. What did you think about this fight? I thought it was entertaining. I thought it delivered some fun, entertainment, as I said. But I don't think anyone was losing their minds over the skill and precision and the sweet science which was on display. I don't think anyone thought that, but it was fun. And for that, I will say congratulations to both men. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section down there below. Subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you soon.